folks, Andrew from GoPro Wrestling, and it is an absolute honor. I am standing next to one of the greatest heels in the 1980s and 90s, the $1 Million Man, Ted Dibiase. And thank you, sir. It's an absolute honor.
My pleasure to be with you.
I have a question now. What is the best advice that anyone in professional wrestling has ever given you, and who was that?
Well, you know, way back when I first started, of course, I grew up in this business. My father was a wrestler, so wrestling's been a part of my life ever since, as long as I can remember. But when I actually started in wrestling, and it wasn't one, but several of the guys that I looked up to, guys like way back when, Terry Funk, Dick Murdoch, a guy named Killer Carl Cox, Cowboy Bill Watts, who was the owner and operator of Mid-South Wrestling. One thing that they said to me was this, and when I go and I visit the training center down in Orlando, I tell the kids the same thing. Everybody knows that wrestling is show business. I said, but when you get in the ring, you need to think like it's real. In other words, what would you do in a real fight, in a real contest, and how would you respond in a real fight, in a real contest? So because the more realistic you can make it, even though the fans know, but the more real that you make it, the more you're going to draw them into the story you're telling. You know, just little things. I can remember when I was, you know, when Stone Cold Steve Austin first started. You know, he was getting some advice that he needed to do more, that he wasn't doing enough. And I told him no. I said, you know what? You keep doing what you're doing, because what you do is very believable. And I said, it may take you a little longer to get over. I said, but once you get over, you're over, and then you can do whatever you want to do. And of course, nobody, including myself, had any idea, how high that would go with him. But he took that advice and ran with it, and that's the greatest advice I could give anybody in the wrestling business. Even though the public knows we're show business, you walk into a movie, you know it's not real. But if the actors are really good at what they do, then they're going to draw you into the story you're telling. And I'm old school, and as far as I'm concerned, the story is not in all the drama backstage and in the interviews that they have in the middle of the ring. The story is the match. That's the story that people want to see.
It's like back in the day, you guys told the story with your bodies, and even just a simple promo with Mean Gene. Now today, it's so much of the backstage stuff. They act like as if a camera is not in front of them. Would you? Well,
I mean, and again, I have everything to be thankful for. And I appreciate Vince McMahon and World Wrestling Entertainment more than, because I wouldn't be having this interview with you right now. The platform that the WWE and the celebrity that it allowed me to have gives me the platform that I have now as a minister, and I travel and as a speaker. And so, I'm just saying, this is what I hear from fans, and everything changes. I mean, I don't want to be one of those old guys who says, well, it's never going to be like it was before. But just based on what a lot of fans say to me. And, of course, a lot of the fans that come to visit me are fans from my generation. And so, the young fans today, I mean, the WWE's got a whole new following, and obviously they're doing better now than they've ever done. And so I'm not gonna knock it. I'm just saying that for my way was tell the story in the ring. It's even like motion pictures. I love to go to the movies, but it's very rare today that I see a movie that tells me a really gripping story. Because if I see it, I'm never going to forget that. But there are a lot of movies that I've gone to that have tremendous special effects, bombs blowing up and all this stuff. But, 2 weeks later, I can't remember what it was. What was that movie about? My wife the other day said, I asked her, I said, when are we going to see that movie? And she looked at me and she said, we did. I didn't even remember it. So it's kind of like, that's what I would tell them. When you get in the ring, think real, think what we call a shoot.
Who's the current guy in WWE today that you see as a future star down the road?
And I'm being very honest. I don't watch a lot anymore because, quite frankly, I just don't have time. But the one guy that I see that has been used, but to me still is the most believable presentation of a character, is Bray Wyatt. He comes across to me extremely real and authentic.
I wanted to ask you about Andre the Giant. He was very instrumental when you came into WWE. Do you have any memories of Andre the Giant?
Oh my gosh, I loved Andre. And I met Andre when I was still in college playing football in West Texas. But Andre was, he was the guy that basically helped elevate me. I mean, they brought me in and they introduced my character, but the first really big thing they did with me was, me boasting that I was going to buy the world title, and Hulk Hogan and Andre had their first rematch since they set a world indoor attendance record at WrestleMania 3 at, Saturday night's main event where, we had the twin referees. And
still the highest rated segment even till today. I think over 30 million people watched that.
Exactly. And although the main event was Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, the story was the $1 Million Man. And so post that show, WrestleMania 4 was a setup. And then after WrestleMania 4, I traveled all over the country and had tag matches along with Andre against Hulk Hogan and a number of Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan and any one of a number of guys. But that helped solidify my character, that rub that I was given with Andre.
Last question. Do you think if you had won at WrestleMania 4, which was the plan to win the championship, do you think that would have, you as a top strong antagonist would have helped the company at that time in 1988?
I don't think it could have helped. People always say, well, you should have had the belt. You should have had the belt. The championship belts in our industry, they're props. I mean, it's a business. We're storytelling. And when it was suggested to me, instead of winning, because if I had won and taken the belt, then I'd have had my little run with Hulk, and he'd have beat me again, and I'd be another. Now who's the next heel? Who's the next guy in line? But when they said, "What if you don't win, and in your arrogance create your own championship?" I mean, as soon as he says, this was like. It was like a no-brainer for me. It's like, oh my gosh. I said, let's do that. And I tell everybody, I said, I've made more money, carrying around the $1 Million championship than I ever would have, because it made me one of the most hated villains that the company ever had. And, so I went on from Hogan to, and Randy Savage to Jake Roberts and you name it, all the way up to the tag team title run with IRS. So, I think I had a lot more longevity, as a $1 Million Man with the $1 Million title than I would have had having had the world championship even for a short time.
Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. Do you have anything you would like to tell your fans? Do you have any future plans or anything?
Well, yeah, I'd like to remind everybody that we've done a documentary. It's a docudrama, a movie about my life. I mean, I've been telling my life story for a long time, but we've made this into a movie, and it's what they call a Fathom event. It will be seen on November the 7th in select theaters, between 500 and 700 select theaters all over the United States. So, go see. It's called The Price of Fame, and of course, and the price of fame can be high. It's like, and I want to add this. I'm not knocking fame. I'm not even knocking. The WWE I am grateful to. This story could be about a guy in any business, whether he's an athlete or just a businessman. The $1 Million Man said, everybody's got a price. Everything has a price. So it's not so much about fame itself. It's given the hand you've been dealt, whether you've been given a lot or given a little, it's what you do with it. And the story is really about the redemption of my marriage, my personal redemption, the redemption of the relationship with me and my children, and and who I am today, as opposed to who I was back then. So anyway, that's what it's about, and I hope you come out and see it.
And that date is November
the 7th. In select theaters all over the U.S.
The Price of Fame, folks. Ted Dibiase, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.